What's going on, guys? So yeah, just real quick, a little mini project that I did involves a problem that I think a lot of us encounter, especially junior level developers as we're starting out in our careers, and um, we create these mini projects and push them up to GitHub. And before long, we realized that we have a lot of repositories, and we want to delete them. And I have a similar experience. Um, and before, I actually used an app. Some guy created an app where you can do this. Let's get delete repository. Um, the remover, the repo remover. Um, but you have to insert your personal access token into that app. So it's I've been told that is not the best course of action to take. Um, and you really don't even need that. All you really need is to be able to interact with GitHub's API. They have a rich API, and write a script, whether that be in Bash or Python. And I chose to write one in Bash, and I just kind of wanted to show you guys a little bit um, about what I did, and just to show all you guys that think it might be too hard or whatever to mass delete repositories, but it's actually quite straightforward. Um, so yeah, on GitHub, I mean, they have a pretty good API going on here. So if you go to GitHub Docs, REST API, go under repositories, and that'll just give you a bunch of endpoints that you can attach to that let you interact um, with the repositories that you have. And for my particular operation, I used the list repositories for a user endpoint, and then I also used delete a repository endpoint to delete some of the repositories that I wanted to get rid of. Um, so as you can see, I'll go to these repositories. um, I took a 11-week Java training course. Come on. And a part of that was solving LeetCode style problems. And then based on that course, they would upload um, your Java problems to GitHub. So as you can see, the Kodiak killer, which is my alter ego, and the various problems that I've done, and I have no use for those anymore, and I don't want to go through the repetitive process of mass deleting all of these repositories one by one. Um, Gotta go here, delete this repository. I want to delete this repository. I have read and understand these facts, and you have to copy and paste this in there. So it's just a lot of work if you have a bunch of repositories that you want to get rid of. But yeah, so all you need to do, like I said, GitHub has a rich API. You're likely going to need to create a personal access token, which is pretty straightforward. Um, so you go to settings, under your profile, then you'll go to developer settings, um, and then you can create a personal access token. Um, and one thing you want to keep in mind here, if you get back a 404 error or a not authorized uh, error while trying to send a request to GitHub's API, it's likely because when you generated your new token, you didn't set the scope correctly. So here, I'll show you what I mean by that here in 1 second. So yeah, when you're creating your personal access token, set the expiration date. And for my particular use case, so I want to be able to get um, all of the repositories, including the private repositories. So you're going to want to click this scope, repo, and then you want to go down if you're deleting repositories and select this, delete repo scope. Then you can generate your token and use that in your API request. So those are the starting steps, and then after you do that, you will go and whatever your preference is, create a Bash or Python script. I chose Bash, typically based off what I've seen and heard. Um, you'll use Bash kind of for smaller scale scripts, and then migrate to Python uh, once your scripts get a little larger. So a little bit about what's going on here. I'll just run through it fairly quickly. Um, we set our shebang, um, which basically just tells the script that we're using Bash. We have our personal access token that we had. If you see this video, by the time I take my personal access token down, you're welcome to explore around in my GitHub profile, delete whatever you want, update whatever you want. I'm pretty much giving you guys free range there. So we send many different API requests. Um, in this script, um, especially with when we're deleting the APIs, excuse me, the repositories from the API. So the first thing, after we set our token variable, we're going to get a response. And basically, you can just grab this right off of the GitHub API docs. So they provide, whether you're using curl, in this case we are JavaScript, GitHub CLI, um, they provide some boilerplate code there. So we basically just copied this, pasted it. In here we have our 3 headers that we're using. This header basically just describes the way in which we want the JSON that we're getting back formatted. And specifically, we want that formatted back the way that GitHub has defined it. We set our authorization header, passing our token variable, and we're specifying the GitHub API version using obviously our endpoint. Now something useful, GitHub by default will return 30 repositories, and they'll return a maximum of 100 repositories. So for this particular example, we might have to run the script a couple of times, just because all of the repositories that I'm trying to delete might not show up in the first 100 responses, but that's okay. So after we get our response in the form of JSON, we're going to want to filter that JSON so that it matches the name of the repository that we're trying to delete. In this case, I was lucky because there was a common naming convention for all of the repositories in that the Kodiak killer was at the start. So filtering them was pretty straightforward. So I'll go over this script really quickly. So we're going to want to echo, if you're familiar with Bash, That basically just means print out onto the console so that we can use it in some type of way. So we get our response. We're using our response. Then based on that response, once we get that, then I like to think of a pipe as it's officially called, just as then in plain English. Then we will use a package called JQ, which stands for JSON query, which basically just allows us to query the JSON that we get within Bash. So that's pretty cool. Um, and then we are going to filter, and the -r stands for raw. So whatever we get back, it's going to be in raw format. Then we're using this function, which specifies that we are going to loop through each object within the JSON array. And so then for each object, we are going to select name.name within the object and see if it starts with the Kodiak killer. If it does, then we get the name, which is the key in the key value pair is name. So we'll use .name per JQ syntax. So once we get this, once we get all of the repositories that have that particular naming convention, we will pass, or excuse me, I said once we get all of the repositories with that particular naming convention, but that's not the right way to say it. This happens all in one go. So if in this iteration of the array, if the current object that we're looking at does in fact have a repository with the name that starts with the Kodiak killer, then we say here, if that's true, basically if we can read that value, meaning in plain English it has a value, then we will set this value, the name, into the repo variable in raw format, and then we will delete that repository using another GitHub API endpoint. Here is basically the same stuff. You can go and look at the documentation for yourself. We specify -x with the delete because by default typically APIs assume Git as the default request. We have our headers. We have our endpoint with our query parameters. So we will go ahead and run this and specify the full path. We will go GitHub mass delete -v2, and hopefully everything will work, and our repositories will be gone. Okay, let's see. Alright, this is the moment of truth. Hopefully everything works out. Alright. What the hell is going on? Man, this is taking a while. It's working now. I guess deletes take longer than GET requests. So I'll speed this up in the video. Wait on it here. Wait, I'm getting 404 not founds? How? How am I getting 404 not founds? Ugh, great. Alright. We're gonna have to troubleshoot this live. Why am I getting 404 not found? Delete a repository. Curl, actually, your token, owner, slash repo. I don't know why that's changed. It's annoying. Alright. Super annoying. We're gonna fix that real time. Alright. Okay. I was working with ChatGPT a little bit and they must have formatted that in a weird way. So we'll get back to the original like I had it. We'll insert our token with the $sign token. We'll go owner, which is just your username. So I'll say K9 552. And then we will go the repo in which we want to delete. Repo, just this. Alright, so we will save that. We're going to run this bad boy again. See if it works. There we go. Alright, we're rolling now. I'll speed this up. Man, it's nice writing a script. Just sit back, relax. Just do whatever. Oh man, the power of computing. The power of computing. This is very nice. I'll probably have to run this one more time though, like I said. I think I had some of the repositories that I was working with that I needed to delete that were over the 100 repository max limit. It's looking pretty good so far. Yeah. In my next step, I think what I'm going to do instead of just making a video about this, I think I'm going to create my own app like that one guy did, like the example that I showed you, and make that open source as well, so that you can just run it on your local machine. You can basically just click through your repositories. If you go to the app, you'll see what I'm talking about. Just click through your repositories. As you click, it probably adds those repos to like a list, and then like I just did here, it probably just goes through that list and is deleting all the repositories behind the scenes. But hopefully, let's go look at my GitHub and let's see if these are here. All these Kodiak killers. Refresh. How many repositories? 144 down to 72. That's nice. Okay, now we still have some left, which is expected. So I'm gonna run those on my own time, but that's essentially all there was to it. Pretty powerful in the way that scripts can automate everything. I know a lot of people run into this problem, like I said early on, or probably even senior level devs, where you just get a lot of repositories in your GitHub portfolio that you just don't really need anymore. So super powerful stuff. Just wanted to kind of show you guys a little mini project that I was up to. And in addition, if you kind of want to get your feet wet with APIs, consuming APIs, this is a perfect way to continue to do that too. Um, so yeah, that's it. Appreciate you guys for watching. See you guys later.